Okay, fantastic. It's been a fantastic morning listening to so many interesting angles. And this session now that we have for about half an hour is going to be fantastic as well. So what we're doing now is we're going to hear from some of our PhD researchers. We've got here on the panel Lonseni Kuruma, Stephanie Eiffel, Kevin Jones, and Henry Edgeburns. My name is Rumi Begum. I'm a senior lecturer in life sciences, and I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit about their research and their experiences so far. It takes me back to when I did my PhD some time ago now. I don't want to take too much time, and I'm just going to start off with Lonseni.
Hello. Hi, everyone. As she said, my name is Lonseni Kuruma. I'm a new PhD student. I started last year in September. My journey to starting a PhD, I thought that I was just going to start doing a PhD, basically, and the focus and the passion that I had when I was writing my proposal made me believe somehow that I knew what I was doing. Once I started, literally something left me. I was like, what's going on? I thought I knew these things. I knew what to write about, and I had no idea. And then it became really blue and very difficult. I had to find a way to direct myself, and obviously I had wonderful supervisors, but I had to go back on the journey of what brought me here. What's the reason why I suddenly found myself doing a PhD? Because that's literally what it was for me. I then had to trace my own journey, my own history with coloniality. I had to understand, and that traced me back to childhood, growing up as a gay boy in a country that was a Muslim and a Christian country, understanding that due to coloniality, I couldn't be who I was, and how those religions were brought to us by people that colonized us, and they stopped me expressing who I was. And the second thing was in our constitution in Guinea, where I was born, the homophobic laws in our institution, in our constitution up to today are from our colonizers. They brought these homophobic laws in our laws, and that is still operate today. Somehow I couldn't be gay in my country, but I could be gay in the colonizer's country. So, and also I had to perform masculinity, and education was one of the traits that allowed me to do that, where like I perform masculinity to almost I prefer masculinity. I was good at school just to protect myself, so people can clock you, right? And what I did that, and I wanted to come in a country where I could explore that hidden part of me. So that was my journey to England. My parents promised me, if you study hard, we'll probably send you to one of the countries of your colonizers. That's not how they said it. I'm just saying that. So I came to England, and I realized I was black. That was a new concept. Because I was Lonseni, I belonged to a family. I was from a Mandingo tribe, and how I came by that, my grandma told me at age 15, when I asked her who we were, she told me that I'm not Guinean, which was a shock to my system, because school told me I was Guinean. She said, no, that's a demarcation of a group of white male that divided our land. Who you are is a Mandingo man. So at that point, that was my first introduction to coloniality. I realized that my story wasn't my own anymore, right? So I had to trace all that to understand where I am. But what made me understand the scope of my work was what my sister told me when I was awarded my PhD. She called me to congratulate me, and she said, "But what are you gonna do after your PhD?" I don't know. I was like, why is she asking me that question? But I told her that I probably would teach in the future or do some public speaking or whatever that is. She was like, oh, you're going to teach white people? You're going to be teaching white people, teaching them the knowledge they imported back to you. I wanted to contest that straight away because of my critical or my awareness of what the implication of what she was saying. But I stopped myself, and I used that to understand the scope of what I'm about to do. She literally guided me through. So that means the way knowledge was imported to us was something that was fundamentally wrong with that. She understood knowledge. She put herself in a position where she saw herself incapable of producing knowledge. right? And I was that boy growing up in Guinea. That's what I thought. So that was a way for me to look at how knowledge is produced within the context, within the Eurocentric context, and why everybody else is excluded from that. And and that created my journey. And the second thing that created my journey was what my supervisor told me, to put myself in conversation with other people that are writing about things I'm talking about. And so being in conversation with people like Remy, that's why I feel so privileged to be sharing this room with him today. His name is literally all over my book. In my head, he's my friend. I don't know if you will agree. I've got aunties in my head. I've got Bell Hook is my auntie somehow. Like all these people, just put myself in conversation with them and allow them to guide me, in doing what I am here to do. Yeah, that's literally my story. I could go on, but I've only got 4 or 5 minutes. So yeah, thank you all.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Eiffel, and I'm doing a PhD in politics. I'm going to tell you a bit about my research, my goal, and my current tensions first. There's a few tensions, but I'll try and limit it down. So my research seeks to draw on empirical data towards the theoretical end to make sense of her encounters with racialization and whiteness across geographical sites in Europe. When I say her, I'm referring to the black women of the African Caribbean diaspora. My goal is to add to black feminist thought in Europe, so it's towards social and political theory. My work is a political exploration, so I draw forward epistemology as political, the self in the everyday as a political site, drawing specific attention to the gendered, racialized self. A fundamental question that I'm currently working through at the moment is how can I do this research and not marginalize her and myself in this process? In my work, I'm attempting to move from research that is about her to research that is as her and for her in terms of centering her within the research within itself. So this requires not only a methodology shift, but an epistemology shift. It's a move from object to subject, from object to speaking intellectual subject, considering the black woman has historically not had that position, and currently the black intellectual was like 0.27% is the space that black women occupies within the UK as a professor. It's also a political move of regaining subjectivity, of locating the words where there has been no words or lack of words. So some of the things that I'm currently attempting to do in coming to know otherwise, so that I, we, she can start to make sense of the phenomena in question, is place the self inside and not outside of theory, theorizing from first-person everyday accounts, positioning from the border-crossing diaspora over the single nation-state, centering the in-between the liminal space, centering the self that moves, leading from effect, and coming to know through the sensing body. So just before I wrap up, I'm going to tell you a bit about my journey. I come from a background where doing a PhD is not the norm. I am a first-generation university student. No one in my family has a PhD. A year before I even applied for a PhD, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what a PhD was. It was not on my radar. It was never a part of my vocabulary or my aspirations. So coming to this point has not been easy. So facing insider knowledge, being told you shouldn't apply, it's going to be too difficult for you, being racialized by those who are in power or in positions of power, not to mention the process of getting to the stage within itself with all the references and all the things that you need. And it is currently not easy, as I briefly pointed out. Whilst I've drawn brief attention to this, it's the lived reality of doing a PhD whilst black, a woman, and in Europe, where most of the literature renders you non-existent or marginal at best, and the dominant ways of coming to know is another form of silencing. So I have to actively de-link from entering into reading myself through a framework where I'm other, where I'm alien, where I'm non-existent, so that I can center and not self-marginalize myself in my own doctoral research. Ultimately, I'm taking up space in a room that hasn't been meant for me. So yes, this journey hasn't been easy, and it's not easy, but right now, in doing this PhD, at Westminster particularly, I'm exactly where I want to be. When you come to center the liminal space, to not marginalize your situatedness, is a powerful place to come to know from. To come to see from, it brings forward different questions, different sorts of inquiries that wouldn't be possible otherwise. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so my name is Kevon Jones, and I'm a first-year doctoral student as well. I'm doing archival research on Marcus Garvey to show the importance and significance of Garvey and his movement, the UNIA, in a 21st century context. So the title of this is Researching While Black, and kind of when I was thinking about that, it's kind of like driving while black. And that's, for those that don't know, it's like it's being pulled over for no reason, for driving nice cars when you're black. Something else you could put it to is kind of being followed around a shop when you're black. I've experienced that. So it kind of took me back to kind of when I was in high school and I was doing my math GCSE. And one of the teachers actually said to me, you're not gonna get your GCSE. That means you're not gonna go to college, and that means you're not gonna go to university. Damn, was she wrong. So anyway, I made a bet with her and I said, I'm gonna actually pass my GCSEs, I'm gonna get to university, and I want an apology letter from you, but, to this day, I've never gotten that apology letter back. And when I finally got to university, I did my undergrad at Kingston University, and, when I was there, I used to tell my friends, I'm gonna get a first class. I'm gonna finish this and I'm gonna get my PhD. And yeah, I'm here now doing a PhD, which is amazing. So, when I was in my second year at doing my undergrad as well, we didn't learn anything about, black history or, black theorists, philosophers or anything like that. And I remember in one of my classes, the term dead white men came up, which was in reference to kind of, philosophers and theorists who were at the forefront of knowledge, and they were white. And then we began learning about Frantz Fanon, and from there I did a module on slavery and emancipation, which kind of propelled me on a journey to kind of learn more about black people. So my undergrad was focused on Marcus Garvey. My master thesis as well was focused on Walter Rodney, and I've looked at kind of assassinations of prominent Pan-African leaders being used as a strategy against African liberation movements. And that kind of takes me to kind of my aspiration. So when I first started uni, it was just to do uni and just to get through uni. But, Marcus Garvey said that a people without knowledge of their past origin, history, and culture is like a tree without roots. And so for me, it was no longer to just do uni, but to kind of be a beacon and a vehicle for other black children as well, to kind of see, the work that I'm doing and the kind of positions that I'm in, and, they can see that as a way they can elevate themselves and, do something, great with themselves as well. And yeah, so as well, when Garvey was in London, he said he questioned, his race, identity, and, when he was here, he kind of asked, where is a black man's government? Where is his king, his kingdom, his president, his country, his ambassadors and men of big affairs? And because Garvey couldn't see these things, he professed to kind of make these things come true. And which is why I'm, studying Marcus Garvey, because I kind of want to show, why he's so important. And when I first came to Westminster, do I have a lot of time left? I didn't even look over. Am I good? Okay. So when I first came to Westminster, Dibiash was just so welcoming. I think he sent me an email before as soon as I got the letter to say I'd been accepted, and he said, come speak to me, come speak to Deborah. And yeah, we've just been building a network ever since. So yeah, it's just amazing to kind of have these people around to kind of support me, because, as well, when I was doing my master's and I was doing my thesis on Walter Rodney, my supervisor didn't know what Pan-Africanism was. She didn't know who Walter Rodney was, and when I kind of tried to explain it, she didn't know who these people were. But nonetheless, she helped me as much as she could, and I was able to get a distinction in my work. So, shout out to her as well. But yeah, so that's my journey, and that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at so far. I hope that makes sense.
Hello, everyone. My name is Henry, and mine is just going to be very short, not too long. So I came to the UK at the age of 19. I went to college, then did my undergrad at the University of Bedfordshire. I call it a town center university because you can easily, it's in the town center anyways, and there are a lot of food outlets there, for students, which was good. Then I went to the University of Hertfordshire to do a master's in clinical psychology. Then I went off to support an African student who was going to be expelled in a special needs school. So I sort of read, the parent is my friend, so I read the letter about, the expulsion, and I thought, let me go support this person. So I supported him voluntarily in the school. Then the school then employed me to work with him full-time, and which was really great. My research in particular has nothing to do with anti-racism, so I'm looking at children's values in Africa. And for example, I'm looking at the relationship between values, emotion, and well-being. So in terms of my aspiration, I want to see how I can sort of highlight some of the challenges that young African people, say for example, face in school, and see how we can support them, because I think it's important to evidence this so that people like that can be supported. And lastly, just want to say thank you to Dibish and Graham as well, the entire team, for most importantly giving us the opportunity, to apply for the PhD, for making that room available, because I think it's important to give people the opportunity to thrive in life. It's important to respect people wherever they are from, and it's very important as well to love people. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your journey so far and what you're planning to do as you move forward. Do we have any questions for our panel?
So proud of you guys, so proud of you, so proud of you. Feels almost emotional for me because I just think back to my years as a PhD student and how, it was framed in a sense of loneliness. And the fact that you are this group, from whom you can draw strength, I think is just fantastic. And I think it's with that in mind that I want to ask each of you a question, in fact, because this is recorded. And our hope is that prospective students will watch this. And they're hearing from three, brilliant PhD researchers. I can say that personally because I've spoken to each of you personally, so I know you're brilliant. What advice would you give to another prospective black student wanting to walk your road? And I'd like to hear that from each of you.
Can you hear me? One I would say is knowing exactly what you want out of your PhD, and kind of understanding as well that it's not going to come without challenges, and there's always going to be challenges on this road, and you just have to stick with it. And that would be my main thing, just knowing what you want and going for it. And not letting anybody tell you you can't do it, not letting anybody, sidetrack you or try to take your mind off it. So, be tunnel visioned and just go and get it and just, be your original self.
To that question, I would say for me is I'm just mirroring what brought me here is questioning myself, loads of questions that I thought didn't have answers within my own curriculum. And I think a PhD gives you the chance to explore those things. So instead of, if things doesn't make sense, why don't you want to find out how they don't make sense and how can you make sense of it? And I think it's my curiosity, and I worked as a stylist listening a black woman's story, black woman that like sometimes we're the same ages, sometimes we're older than me and all that. It's literally, I was, in a way, I learned so much of what was wrong through the lens. I saw my own experience through my lived experience through their lens and vice versa. And that created loads of questioning within me. And a PhD was, for me, it's a process of healing in a way. A wound that I allow myself to open in a way. So if you feel like that, a PhD is a great route for you to explore those things and to actually heal from, because you might not find the answers for everything you're looking for, but I've been doing this for 8 months, I believe. I could feel already that process, though at times well, I don't think the process actually was lonely for us. Like you said earlier, we've had each other from day one. So there's always what I called, I think I read that through Remy, I'm going to refer it. It said the episteme of blackness, and I think I had that from the first day. So it hasn't been lonely. It's just like I feel like I find a way to heal and answer those questions that I never had answers for, in a way. Yeah.
My advice, if you're thinking about doing it, is do it, basically. In the sense that if you come to a place where you are considering doing a PhD, then you're at a place where you feel like you want to do a PhD. I haven't really encountered that many people who think about doing a PhD. I mean, just as a side point. So if you're thinking about doing it, do it. People might tell you no. They might position you outside of, like I was racialized as somebody who wouldn't go and do a PhD. So even to the point where professors will go and speak to certain students and say, oh, well, why don't you go and do a PhD? I wasn't one of those students. So if you're thinking about doing it, go and do it. Don't give up when somebody tells you no, because the road wasn't meant for you. So know it will be difficult, but don't give up. Find the right environments as well. That is most important. Like, I searched all different universities to find a space that would actually consider the project that I wanted to do. And many of them wouldn't consider the project I wanted to do. So you really need to think about where you're going to do your PhD, and that is an environment that's going to support you. Nowhere's perfect, but you need to be in the right place. And yeah, it goes back to a supportive team, like what Kevin said. We often get support from Kevin saying those stack things, like, do what you want to do, be yourself, don't tell anybody else to tell you anything else. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Kevin, okay. But I mean, it's really important that you stay the course. Yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, well, he's a calm one, definitely. We need you, bro. But also, because it's tied to financial reason, we are talking about the underprivileged group here. Realize that there is PhDs that now, like, we are not paying a dime for this. So you can't find PhD studentships. Look for studentships, and because it is expensive if you have to pay yourself. Yeah.
I think my advice would be not to give up, because in life a lot of challenges will come at you. And I think if I look at my journey, those challenges will only add to your growth, and those challenges will be part of what will make you unique. And those challenges will sort of form the unique purpose or unique experience that you give out. So yeah, that's my advice.
Do we have any more questions for the panel? Yeah.
This question isn't really for you, Sat. It's more for the university, because perhaps I came in a bit late and I didn't hear, but I didn't hear a voice from STEM. And so I was just wondering, particularly for the university, was there one? Okay, so why is that, and is it just the uniqueness of this particular conference? I mean, so, why aren't there more black students doing STEM PhDs? This is my background, this is what I want to see more of. And if we think of the pandemic recently, one of the things that was clearly missing, and if anyone who read sort of Beyond the Data will know that one of the things that was missing was more black researchers understanding the science so that they can explain to the community what is going on. So it's not so much for you, although you can comment if you like, but I think this is a question for the university and generally for academia. Why aren't there more black STEM researchers?
Dibesh, do you want to take that one?
In terms of one, of course, Henry is part of broadly psychological sciences, so that's the connection. But I'll give you a bit of background why they're here, not others. One is, of course, who says yes to coming to conference. That's number one. But number two, four of them, especially three of them, are part of a particular initiative of our School of Social Sciences. This is one of the schools, not our. When I say our, means I'm head of that school, so I know it's my school. But School of Social Sciences. So last year we had a BME studentship scheme, and it had up to 3 students, right? 3 studentship and full studentship. And we made it very clear that it is for UK, so it's UK fee paying, and from 3 particularly marginalized backgrounds. So black of all kinds, Pakistanis and Bangladeshis. So you could see that it was not BME studentship, it was BME, and within that we identified the groups that are underrepresented. So that was the reason, that's the reason why actually all 4, because Stephanie came through another scheme and is part of the university. That's why it's more social science. However, this year, and you can imagine it wasn't easy because we had to reallocate the entire studentship budget that side. And the reaction shifted from great idea to what about others, to what about white working class boys, to what about single mothers, to what about everyone else, which is very important point, but I don't believe those questions were ever asked when the studentship were not allocated. So the idea about what about single mothers were never raised when the scheme was more open. We fought, and again, you know who you are. We were quite clear we'll do it despite pushback. Now, the university there's up to 12 studentships fully paid across the disciplines, including STEM this year. And all of them, whether they acknowledge or not, followed from what we did and followed the exact same criteria. And so next year, you are the pioneers, by the way. Next year, we'll have up to 12 PhD students in different disciplines, possibly including STEM, who will be possibly black or Pakistani or Bangladeshi background. So I'm just saying it's a start. And this story simply also reminds us that even when there's a pushback, if you fight, there are chances, there are openings. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have one last question maybe we've got time for? Anyone? No? I think it's fantastic hearing your voices and seeing you up here, and I wish you all the best as you move forward in this journey. And like you were saying, Stephanie, there's going to be ups and downs, lots of challenges. Don't give up. It's going to be a good journey, very character building, for sure. Okay, I think. Thank you.